Yeah. So I'm going to start recording here, and instead of Instagram or other places. Last week I did a live stream about the boomers, as you guys know, and I had a boomer that told me that it was a shame I couldn't make my point without using the word gay as a slur or without slut shaming. And I think that being a slut is shameful. So I said, "You're banned. You're blocked, slut." Well, I found out that this was a member at Online Great Books. In fact, and so I actually I gave her 60 days worth of her money back and removed her from the program. And she said, "Oh, and they call us." She says, "Oh, they call us the snowflakes." And I wanted to talk to you guys about this. I think it's incredibly important. It's extraordinarily important to keep people out of your organizations who do not share the project. Um, for example, this lady here, she said, "Oh, I didn't know that you were running an extreme right wing organization," and I just popped off to her. Well, you were wrong, and then I got rid of her. But it's not an extreme right wing organization. But if you're interested in policing up someone else's speech, then you're not welcome either on my streams or in my businesses. It is important to me that we don't allow people who want to police our speech in our organizations. They ultimately, this lady just thinks that she's really polite. I have no doubt that she's a typical boomer, and she just thinks that not using words like slut makes you a nicer person, and she's really interested in being nice. Well, I'm not. I'm interested in not being subverted, right? I'm interested in maintaining some standards. So I believe that you are better off getting rid of the clients or the people inside your organizations that subvert the purposes of your organizations, which you'll suffer for, right? Like, she's not a subscriber now. We won't get any revenue from her now. So that hurts. That hurts. But by kicking those people out right now, we will be able to keep the organization. If we keep those people, if we don't get rid of those people, we won't be able to keep the organization. It will get subverted and we'll lose it. It's happened over and over and over again. It's happened in the military. It's happened in the government. It's happened probably at your workplace. It's probably happened at your church. You've seen it and you know it. So I'm not going to allow people who are speech police, who are relativists, who are postmodern, or how about this, even complainers, be part of my organizations, because we can't do the good things, the beautiful things, and the true things with speech police, relativists, postmodernists, critical race theorists, identity politic practitioners, and complainers. We can't do it with those people. So I booted her out, and she'll be butthurt about it, and she will probably complain somewhere, whether it's on Yelp or on Facebook or somewhere about it, and that's okay. But I don't need that. We don't need that. She's not helpful, and now she's gone. Um, no speech police. I'm not running an echo chamber over there. One of my dear friends, Kirk, is a member at Online Great Books, and I don't think I agree with anything that he's ever thought. But he's fair, and we have great talks, and I love him. And he's not interested in scolding. He's interested in the truth. And if you're a scold, if you're a left-wing scold, you're out. I cannot tolerate that. You are out. So if this lady ever listens to this, she probably won't. Know that that's why you're gone. It's not because I have an extreme right-wing project, but it's because you are an enemy of what we think is the good. And I know that you think you're a polite person when you try to enforce what you think are norms on people. You're not. You're wrong. The things that you think are polite norms are the things that have cost us institutions like marriage, um, like proper sexuality, where you're not promiscuous, and so on. So that sort of what these normies see as polite and decent is in fact permissive and destructive. So I don't want to hear about it. Sorry. Like I said, just before I got off the phone with her, she said, "Oh, and you guys call us the snowflakes." Let me have a drink of this red beer here. I've recorded and spoken in the past about how the snowflake thing is a stupid idea and bad rhetoric. The people of the left are not snowflakes. They are entirely intolerant of your views or the views that are opposite of theirs. They're entirely intolerant of those. It's not that they're offended, they are entirely intolerant of their opposition. And they're right. They are correct. But the people on the right don't take them seriously and they infantilize them by saying they're snowflakes. They're not snowflakes, guys. They are intolerant of their opposition. And that's exactly how you should be and how we should be. Now, she said that just as I told her, hey, best of luck to you in the future. I hope you start your own group and best of luck. And then just as I was hanging up, she said, oh, and you call us the snowflakes. So I didn't get to answer to that. And I probably wouldn't have with her anyway. But it's really important that we stop viewing the people of the far left as snowflakes. Because again, I want to repeat myself over and over again. They are not snowflakes. They are entirely intolerant of their opposition. It's important to recognize. We can take a page from that. We need to learn from that, probably, right? So keep your eye out. Keep your eye out for people that are saying that. To say that they're snowflakes is just saying, oh, they are incredibly sensitive. And if they weren't sensitive, they would agree with me. No, that is not the case. They do not agree with you. That is the starting point. They believe you're wrong and they want you to shut up. They are not snowflakes. So, in fact, this lady used that rhetoric here. She says, "Oh no, you're the snowflake." And I wanted to have the opportunity. I didn't take the opportunity. I just went ahead and terminated the call. But I was tempted to take the opportunity to tell her, "Hey, I'm not a snowflake. I'm not offended. I am completely intolerant of you, and your behavior is unacceptable when you are operating in a structure or a institution that I have created or have control over. Your views and the way you behave is not welcome here because I am opposed to it. I'm not offended. In fact, you can't offend me." So, guys, sound off there in the Hambrick group chat if you want, if you would like. It's helpful to me to get that feedback. I've seen a few people look like they were typing, but I don't know. Yeah, Caleb says they're snowflakes, quote unquote. They are snowflakes as they destroy your entire livelihood and achieve complete political dominance. Right. They're not snowflakes. They're entirely focused on stamping out the opposition, and we should be too. So I wanted to talk about creating culture. Charlie says, what motivates these people to infiltrate and subvert? I think, I don't know, is it a will to power? Is it just a pure lust for power? I'm not sure. Is there motivation to infiltrate and subvert? Motivated by Satan, like Caleb says, probably, even though they don't know it. That's the thing about Satan. He doesn't tell you, "Hey, this is Satan. I want you to go over there and fuck up online great books." He doesn't say that. Um, but I think that Socrates tells us I believe it's in the Gorgias, Gorgias, that people always do things with the good in mind, but they typically don't have they typically don't see the whole picture, or that they have the wrong notion of the good. And I actually think that these people have the good in mind, but the idea of the good is wrong, right? For them, they have a perverted notion of what tolerance is, and then they pursue that notion of tolerance to the point that they're intolerant of you, and as a result, they want to control everything, blah, blah, blah. I think they have good intentions. And I know you guys probably don't agree with that, but I think they have good intentions, but their idea of the good is poisonous. I don't know. I don't really know what motivates them. I know what motivates me, and they aren't welcome as a result of that. They just aren't welcome as a result. If you're here in the Scott Stream channel on Telegram, welcome and thank you. Go join the Hamburg group chat if you want to chat here. Um, but I really wanted to get in here. I really wanted to get in here and talk about creating culture. But that lady cheesed me off this morning, and um, it's been weighing on me. I didn't handle it very well. She made me very angry. I lashed out at her probably more than I should have. But even though I lashed out at her, she still wouldn't is not allowed to stay here at Online Great Books or in my chats or in my Instagram uh, account or anything else. So I should have been. Uh, I don't know. Probably could have been more gracious. Always could be more gracious, but even though I could always be more gracious, that doesn't mean I need to be more tolerant of her speech policing and scolding and boomer views. Well, anything more about that, Marco? I don't know what this is. I don't know if this is a Russian. M-A. I don't know. These are Cyrillic characters. I don't know who this is. Is typing way on in there. Marco Yoref. Welcome, Marco. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit today because somebody asked me to talk about creating culture, and I'm very interested in that. And it's an enormous job. It's an enormous job that takes hundreds and hundreds of years. Culture really can't be created out of whole cloth. Like a planning committee, we couldn't come up with a planning committee here of like-minded folks and sit down and invent a culture. We couldn't do that. But I think there's some stuff that we can do. I've been thinking about it. I think about it a lot. I think a good place to start is by saying to ourselves, what is quote unquote culture? Right? It shares a root with the word cult. Um, I know it when I see it, but it's hard to define. It's hard to define. I know what it's comprised of. I think that culture is typically comprised of a unified approach to living that is expressed normally through art, cuisine, work ways, folk ways, spiritual ways. Right? Yeah, Marcos says the most important thing is preserving and creating culture. And I agree, but one of the problems that we have here in the US at least is there isn't like what culture would we preserve, right? This is the problem with conservatism. What do you conserve? It's a tough one. So I say that we're going to probably have to um, we're going to have to create some. While we want to preserve what we can, there isn't enough left to preserve, probably, and we're going to have to create where things are missing. And again, I think that the culture, quote unquote, culture resides in folk ways, spiritual ways, work ways, um, art, cuisine, right? And so the art would be music, it would be all things written, it would be dance, um, painting, sculpture, um, might include furniture styles like the shaker chair, for example. Um, and then, of course, folk ways would be, how do we do things, you know, um, canning, food preservation, um, again, the furniture building, which results in the art, all of those kinds of things. If you go look at the Firefox books or Foxfire books, excuse me, you can see a bunch of folk ways that have been recorded, spiritual ways. I think that makes sense, right? So those are the things that we need to be working on. So how do we do it? What do you do? How do you do it? Well, Marco says we look and search in books, songs, folk tales. I agree. There is still culture around, you know. Um, there is regionalism that has culture around it, and I think you should be looking for that. I love Oklahoma music, from Woody Guthrie to um, the Turnpike Troubadours. I love it all, and that's what we listen to around here. Um, we need to make sure that I try to make sure that the kids and everybody around me knows how to dance to that kind of music. Um, we need to know what our local cuisine is. People tend to think that Americans don't have a cuisine, but we darn sure do. We darn sure do. Whether it's a chicken fried steak or what we call biscuits, or and breakfast gravy, or a breakfast sausage made with pork and sage and so on. I think we do have a cuisine, and I think that we need to, when we can, um, eat, cook, use our own cuisine, and we need to not. We have a plethora of cuisines. Well, yeah, I think we do. The United States is huge. The United States is huge, and as a result, it does have a lot of cuisines. But so, find out what yours is, cook yours, and grow things in your garden and cook those things, and your cuisine will come out of that. Right, your cuisine will come out of that. Your folkways will come out of that. Grow your own food. Make your own music when you can. Listen to recorded music less. I have said on the Music and Ideas podcast that I think that recorded music is probably bad for us, and I stand by that. It's much easier to listen to someone make music than it is to make it yourself. And we need to make our own music. When we can, we need to make our own clothes. I mean, stop consuming as much as you can. If you have it within your power to make the thing you need, make that thing, and do it, and do as good of a job as you possibly can in making that thing. Because when you consume, you end up taking that which was made with a profit motive, with an eye to profitability, and with an eye to profit margin, and so on. You end up taking that instead of actually creating something of your own environment, of your own mind, and of your own place and time. And it kills the culture. Chris Kleinfelder says Pacific Northwest is a salmon and crab food culture. We could use more sausage. Yeah, I hear you. Well, it isn't the crab cake like a fried crab sausage sort of? Steven says smoking some beef right now doesn't get much more Texan. Yeah, good. That's what you should do. And when somebody says, "Hey, let's go to the Thai Mexican fusion place tomorrow," just pass. Be like, why don't you guys come over and we're gonna have pot roast? Pass. Don't go do that stuff. It looks like it doesn't hurt, right? You go one time and you enjoy it, and that food can be good, and you think, "Oh, this is no big deal." But you do that, and you take your kids to those places, and you do that uh, for special meals, on birthdays, and so on. And the next thing you know, 25 years later, you've destroyed a part of your culture because you haven't transmitted um, grandma's chocolate sheet cake recipe that for special occasions, like birthdays, to the kids. Right? You're like, "Oh, we're going to go to your favorite restaurant tonight, and then we're going to go pop into the such and such place and get some ice cream for your birthday." No, your mom is going to make grandma's cake recipe, and what's your favorite thing that we eat around here, and cook that, and you eat at home. And then you play a game. You play a regional game, hopefully. Not Jackbox on your Xbox or your PS4, but a game that you played when you were a kid. Again, had to drink some more red beer. Chris says that the crab cake is sort of sausage patty with crab. His grandpa was a Pennsylvania Dutch butcher. Nothing better than the smell of his smokehouse on a fall day. I bet. I bet. Um, there are probably folk songs from your area. Learn those things. I'm lucky enough to have Woody Guthrie here, um, and others. Bob Wills was here in Tulsa for, I don't know, about 10 years. Um, And of course, we got Turnpike Troubadours, and we've got um, well, we have a big songwriting tradition here, and we've got really interesting songwriting and folkways here in Oklahoma. It's an unusual place, and I'm lucky to have that, and I don't discount it at all, and embrace it. Um, Rob says, "Where can you find the recipe for red beer?" Well, I don't have any idea, but here it is. You take a 16-ounce tumbler and fill it with ice. Take the cheapest beer you can get. My preference is Busch Light, and you fill that. Take a 12-ounce can of that, and you pour about 10 ounces in that tumbler. Then you take Worcestershire sauce, and you put, I don't know, a tablespoon of that in there, maybe more. I use Maggi sauce, Maggi. I put a tablespoon, maybe 2 tablespoons of that in there, a little bit of Tabasco, and then I top that tumbler off with Clamato or tomato juice or V8 juice or whatever tomato stuff I have. Um, it's similar to the michelada that you'll get south of the border. My people drank red beer where they would put beer on ice and pour canned tomatoes in that beer and Tabasco for a long, long time. Um, I remember, yeah, I remember people doing that when I was a little kid, and I've picked up that adding the Worcestershire sauce and stuff um, from the Mexican folks in this area. Yeah. Charlie says, "What do you call this lack of connection to the things we consumed?" Consumerism, right? Everything is something that you buy. Everything is something that somebody else makes for you, and so you're not connected. Everything it reduces every single thing that you use to a transaction, and that ain't no good. Ryan says we had the marble game that kind of looks like Sorry. We called it Chinese checkers, I bet. He says it's created a stir at several family get-togethers. I bet that's Chinese checkers, or what my grandmother called that. We used to play that a lot. Looks kind of like Sorry on a 6 point a board that looks like a 6-pointed star. Was that what yours looks like? Used to play that a lot. Caleb says teach your kids chess. I loved it growing up. Yeah, yeah. WTP Extra tells Charlie that this lack of connection to the things we consume, we need to do that. We need to get rid of that by rejecting modernity. Chris Kleinfelter says, Woody traveled all over and spent time in the Pacific Northwest and wrote a song about the Bonneville Dam. Yeah. Yeah, Woody traveled all over. And, he was a guy of the left. He was a progressive. He would probably fight me upon hearing me say that, but he ultimately was a man of the left, and he was wrong about a lot of things. Um, um, he was right about a lot, but he was wrong about a lot too. I would like very much if when he'd saying this land is your land, this land is my land, he would have described exactly who you and I were, because this is not the world's land. Oh, Ryan just posted a picture of their checkerboard, their marbles board that they use to play this game he's talking about. See, that's great. I've never seen this board, and so this is a game that his family plays, and I'm here in Oklahoma, and I've never seen this board. That's great. That's great. Keep that alive, because if if your family and a few other families let that game go, it'll be lost forever. And it's one thing that bonds your family together and makes your family unique. That's excellent. Yeah, it's not Chinese checkers. WTP Extra says it's not. It's interesting. That's wonderful. That's exactly right. Oh, I just did an image search, and they're saying that game is called Fourscore. Fourscore. Or maybe Dirty Marbles. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, never seen that before. That's wonderful. The rules vary a little depending on who you talk to. Yeah, my family plays a game called Pitch. It's a card game. It's a bidding game. It's kind of like spades, but different. Um, my wife's family also played Pitch. It's a regional game, and I don't know a lot of people that play it. It's funny though that her family plays it and my family plays it. Both of our families play what we call 10-point pitch. I met some people when I went to college who were from south of here that played 7-point pitch, and that is an inferior game. I mean, not because we didn't play it, but it's not as interesting. It's seriously not as interesting. The 10-point game is a better game, but they played their own variant, and they are only like 90 miles from here. Um, that so that is a regional game. Out of Texas, people play pitch with dominoes, and they call that game Moon. And my dad likes to play Moon, and there are some people up here that play it as well. Pitch is a bidding game that's played with cards, but there are some Protestant religious sects that don't that prohibit playing games with cards that have faces on them, and I don't understand that, why their theology and why they say they prohibit that, but they don't allow it. So some kids in Texas invented this game called Moon, which plays exactly like pitch, but you use dominoes and you play the dominoes like cards. So you play with double sixes. So a domino would be like the 4 6. Well, that could be that is two different suits. That could be the 4 of 6s or the 6 of 4s. You see, and they would play with those 28 dominoes that can be flipped, and each of them can be two suits. So they end up having 56 total plays, and we use with a 52 card deck. It's an ingenious variation, but it's regional and it's great. It's great. Um, Marco says, "Do you have folk dances in the U.S.?" Yes, we haven't been around long enough, I think, for people to recognize them as folk dances, but we have regional dances that people know and do at family gatherings and so on. Yeah, somebody mentioned square dancing, maybe, probably. But around here, we have line dances, we have two step, we waltz or whatever, but we do it all to country western music, and it's different than what people do in other places. There are polka dances that people dance up in the north of here, where all the Scandinavians settled. But we do have regional dances. When they've been around, give us another couple 100 years and people will call them folk dances. Now they're just what people do. Marcus says, excellent. Preserve that. I agree. Steven says, we also play Rook down here in Texas. It uses number cards instead of face cards. He says he thinks the theology is related to not having a graven image of something or someone that might be considered idolatry. Yeah, I think that's right. So that's, I'm not on board with that, but because, see, like I said, culture arises out of these folk ways, these food ways, these work ways, these spiritual ways. People have a certain, spiritual practices in a regional area, and then they end up with these new games as a result because everything matters. You see, if you take the injunctions on using graven imagery from the Bible in a broadly and very seriously, you end up having a different kind of game that you play with your kids, which is great. This goes to my point that every single thing matters. Every single thing matters. And this is why the lady who was trying to control my speech and scolding me about my word choices can't be part of my organizations, because I believe that every single thing matters. Now, she probably does too. She probably thinks that my speech um, is harmful to her agenda, and that is important and it matters. And so I needed to go. Well, that's fine, but she can go create her own organization where she pursues that. But she can't do that at my organization. And we freed her up, and I gave her 60 days worth of her money back. She can keep all of the books that we've sent her, and I have no hard feelings. But she just can't be in my organization. So to the point about creating culture, you've got to observe, what do you think culture is? What do you think it is? People will say, oh, so and so is cultured. Well, that's easy and slick and dumb, a dumb thing to say, mostly. But what does that mean? It means they know about, that typically means they know about European art. Well, full stop. That's typically what that means. Well, um, you have your own art and you should be well versed in it. That art could include whittling, furniture making, music instrument making, dance, painting, folk art, or even what is quote unquote fine art. But you need to identify it, you need to pursue it, you need to practice it, and you need to support it when you can. Justin Mitchell says Plutarch praises the location of Rome because it is not close to a port. Culture appears to require some measure of isolation. Agreed. Agreed. So you should probably isolate yourself too. No man's an island and all that, but if you send your kids to a government school to be educated, they're going to come out a certain way. They're going to come out a certain way, and they're going to receive mass culture as dictated by the government, and they will not, in that way, they won't be isolated. You know, uh, the Department of Education isn't going to have uh, isn't going to have Ryan's strange marble game in their curriculum. The Department of Education isn't going to say, we're going to teach these kids to do the Cotton Eye Joe and how to two-step. They're not going to do that. So if you want them, but they will, have Kwanzaa week or whatever. Well, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous because that's completely manufactured, right? It's completely manufactured, Kwanzaa. But they study that. But they would rather they studied that than an authentic expression of regional culture, tastes, practices, so on. Oh goodness, just got a text from my parents. My dad's been fighting these recurrent infections and fevers. So say a word for him if you would. Yeah, Caleb says for the West, it's classical music. Culture would include classical music, and I agree. And I think that's actually part of my heritage. I think I need to know something about it. I do, and I need to know it. I need to appreciate it, and I need to participate in it when I can. But there is music that is closer to me than that, even, and I try to know it as well. And Marco says that people like the lady I shuttled on are like time bombs, and they will destroy the institution or organization. They are. They are. Chris says, unlike the woke attitude, culture is made to be appropriated. You bet. I agree with that. Mm. JC says, how did migratory people groups preserve their culture for long periods of time in different nations? In group preference. In group preference. Unified spiritual ways. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Charlie says, you must like Culture Wall and his cover songs. Yeah, culture is a big deal around here. Culture is a big deal around here. We listen to him quite a lot. Quite a lot. Giving the woman a 2-month refund is the opposite of a snowflake. Yeah, we're not doing this for money. I promise you. Nobody's making money over at Online Great Books. We're trying to preserve what culture we have left and create some new culture. And I can't do that when she is policing my speech. And I know I'm disagreeable and raucous and crude. I get that, but she doesn't have to listen to it, and she certainly doesn't need to act like she's you know, my nanny and scold me. We don't need that. And she's done. She said that I was slut shaming, and I said, well, being slut shameful. And I told her, I said, well, you're blocked, slut. And when she called me on the phone, she said, hey, I've been married faithfully for 35 years. I bet that's true. I bet that's 100% true. and I bet she has acted with fidelity. I, I bet that's true. But this is, she's a useful idiot because she doesn't realize that her apologizing for that sort of behavior undermines the institution that she's held and kept dear for so long. There are a lot of people who are, um, there are some people that know exactly what's going on when they teach others to police speech in that way. They know what they're doing. The culture warriors at the top of the food chain. But people like her are probably just, mindless, useful folk who move their agenda forward. And she doesn't. She knows not what she does, even though every single day, through her deed and thought, she's undermining, the very marriage that she claims that she holds dear. Caleb says the Hasidic Jewish community does a phenomenal job of preserving their culture, as do the Amish. Yes, yes. The Amish examine, technologies um, very, very closely and carefully before they adopt them, and they ask themselves, is this a tool or not? And if it's not a tool, um, and in some cases, even if they're tools, they get rid of it. So they ask, is this a tool, and or does this create community? And if it doesn't, it's out. You can go read their Ordnung, and learn a lot from it. It's really interesting. Stephen says, "Is there a room for a curious appreciation of other cultures?" Sure, there's room for that. There's room for that, but you need to do that only after you have a full and complete appreciation of your culture, and sometimes sometimes appreciation includes honest and deep criticism. But you don't have any business learning how to cook Thai food unless you can cook all the stuff your mom cooked, for example. By valuing their culture, for them, their culture had value. Also, the tolerance of the other groups helps. I don't know. Ryan says, if you believe in it, you don't say sorry for your beliefs. Right. Yeah. People throw this out. Stephen, is there room for a curious appreciation of other cultures? I don't know what you intended when you typed that in, but you've probably been infected by this bullshit. Nothing that I have said, nothing that I've said or advocated for here in our discussion about how we might create culture, nothing I have said would preclude us from appreciating anything about another culture. Right? People are so conditioned now to uh, um, with this bias for openness to experience, that if we talk about appreciating anything of our own, the automatic assumption is that you hate everybody else and that you don't have room to appreciate their culture, etc. And it's just not true. You've got to be careful, by the way. You have to be very careful, by the way, because that appreciation of other cultures and that openness to experience can often, well, is often actually covetousness. Have what treasure what you have, be a good husbandman of that which you have, take care of it, and take care of it like a fine watch so that you can hand it to your kids. Marco says he is open to the experience of my forefathers' traditions. When culture is walled off, the idea of appreciation is denied. Well, maybe, but again, what about these Amish? They're walled off. They're walled off, and I think they have a great appreciation. In fact, they are walled off because of their appreciation for their own culture. Uh, yeah, and we've got all these. There's all this rhetoric that comes from our opposition about that couches mm, any reluctance to take on other other dumb ideas. or foreign ideas as a phobia, right? You're transphobic, you're xenophobic, whatever. No, no, there is no fear there. There is no fear there. We just don't have to treasure that which everyone else treasures. There's no phobia there. They wall off to shield their young people from infection by modernity. That's true. That's true. That is true. That is true. And for that, I appreciate it. I made my Instagram account private. It was a business Instagram account, and I had to make it a private Instagram account, or an individual or personal account. And then in order to make it private, so I did that, and now I have these people asking to follow. Um, what do I do about that? How do I vet them before I let them in? Because I'm still going to advertise what we do here on Instagram. I'm going to still going to advertise that. Yeah, give me some ideas about that, guys. You can do that online or here or what offline or whatever. Um, Ryan says an appreciation can be interest. I worked with a guy from Vietnam, learned some history. His dad spent 7 years in a re-education camp after the war. Sure, you can have interest. That's fine. That's fine. But don't covet their stuff. It's not yours. More red beer. Mm, so good. WTP says, I always check to see if they were followed by people I already knew and trusted. If not, they don't get in. Yeah, that's probably a good rule. That's probably a good rule. I've been asking them where they heard about me. But if I don't have mutuals, we're probably going to get rid of them. I asked people in Instagram what they wanted to hear from me, where they wanted to contact me, what could I do, what could I use instead of Instagram, and Telegram here was really popular, a really popular response. People said, "Hey, let's use that." So here we are. Charlie says, "Covetousness makes sense. X country has Y program, therefore we suck." Right. Here, let's read this here from Caleb. He says, I think it's also important to note that culture is a mix of what we've been talking about and the land that the community shares. Bringing in other cultures into the land dilutes the culture of the community. The Hasidic Jewish community in New York have their own neighborhood watch groups and are very specific about who they select for housing in their area. We have an issue with commercial real estate agents giving houses to whomever, mostly because they don't live in the community, do not care. I'm not sure how we defeat commercial real estate when billionaires are buying up land. Yeah, we're sunk. We're sunk. It seems that building culture is only done by being very disciplined, like any cultural group that has been displaced, or out of necessity and lack of options. Yeah, I think that's right. Any traditional group in their homeland, he says, surrounded by folks like themselves that have to rely on each other and utility of their group. Yeah, I think that's right. Um, Indian tribes in the Pacific Northwest, Chris says, share their culture and even exploit it somewhat. They go both ways. If I do a wood carving in a native style, they don't give a rat's. That's true. But the local lefties will get on me about cultural appropriation. Yeah, my wife is Cherokee. Like, look at her if you can't tell, and the kids too. And she's pretty irritated with all the sports teams getting away from their names that were rooted in that. You know, that's an honor. It's not it's not an insult. It's an honor. And yeah, um, yeah. Back to the Instagram exodus. I'll keep doing this here. I'm going to take the audio from this. They have a nice feature that lets me to pull the audio off of this. I'll release it as a Scott stream, and I'll continue publishing them at scotthambrick.com. So people were really interested in me doing this here in Telegram. And the other thing they were really interested in, and I didn't post all of these. I didn't post all of the replies. I posted like one of each kind I got. The other thing they were interested in was a real live like mail piece, something that went to their mailbox through the USPS. And there were two versions of this. One was like a newsletter, and the other one was I got a couple of these, but the fact that I got a couple of these responses was really interesting. Cassette tapes. So I think what I'm going to do, I am not. No, I don't think so. I believe I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this unless I find that it's way more miserable than I thought. I think I'm going to put out a. I think I'm going to put out a zine. You old folks will remember what zines were. It used to be these homemade sort of magazines. The ones I was around were all about the local music scene. They had cartoons in them. They were irreverent. They were dirty sometimes, but they were always, they were not mainstream, and they were always interesting. And I believe I talked to producer Trent about it. He's interested in it too. I think I'm going to end up doing a zine where I will write pieces on politics, humor, music, culture, whatever. Send it out mimeographed in the mail to subscribers. I'm thinking it's going to be one a month, and it's going to be $5 a month. I'm going to end up putting a subscription form and everything on scotthambrick.com, and you can go sign up for that zine, and it'll start out, $5 a month. So, that's a lot of money, but I'm not going to do it for nothing. I'm going to go buy an old mimeograph machine, and we're going to work it up, and we're going to do it. We're going to have stuff in there about homesteading, music, politics, humor, whatever. And Karen is going to have to write a letter to the post office box to gripe about the language that we use in there, so she can kiss it. Ryan says homeschooling. You bet. You bet. All the kind of stuff that we talk about here, I think that we'll do it in the zine. And I don't know, man. It seems to me like it'd be so much fun. It would be so much fun to get a mimeograph zine in the mail about this kind of stuff that's interesting, So I'm going to have to find a working mimeograph machine, and do it. And then we talked to Trent, and Trent's already looking now for a looking now for a cassette duplicator, and we can do it. We can do this. We may take music and ideas completely offline, potentially, and make it all part of the zine. Make it all part of the zine. So you get like a cassette tape once a month and a mimeographed, essentially, zine newsletter. That's sort of the idea. I'm seeing there are a lot of mimeograph machines out here on eBay, but I think it's going to cost me. It's going to cost me something. Like here's a really good, mimeograph ditto machine here. It's $600. There are cheaper ones on here, but it's got to be reliable. And if I buy a cheaper one, I need to really buy two of them, because we're going to need, uh, uh, because we'll need to have the reliability. Kleinfelter says, "Well, I need a typewriter for putting text on Mimeo stencils." I was thinking about it, and we used to get zines that were handwritten on mimeograph stencils, and off they went. But yeah, probably a typewriter as well. Um, it's going to take some work, and I'm going to have to get my daughter, my oldest daughter. I think will be interested in an art zine, and I'm going to need her help to get this thing going. And it's going to be tough to get mimeograph machines. Oh, well, that's very good. Chrissy says he could send me one. Well, that's very, very kind of you. I think that you will have to be the poet laureate of the zine, no question. Yeah, not necessary to send that to me. That's very kind of you, though. Very kind. Yeah, so we're going to work on that. It's going to take me a little bit. I'm going to work a little bit tomorrow. Today's the Sabbath. I'm trying not to do any work. I don't consider this to be work. So tomorrow I will do some research on what it's going to take to create a subscription on scotthambrick.com. That's where it will be. Go to scotthambrick.com and join the mailing list now so I can give you an announcement when we're getting ready to do this. I'll figure out how to do a subscription there, and then how to get that thing hopefully to create some reports so I can print address labels for them, and we'll get on it. And then once a month we'll be out here folding letters like the old days. Um, yeah, those are the things that I wanted to talk about. There's an hour. So we can do a little Q&A here for a little bit and then go on with our lives. Yeah, Ryan says Jerry can help with the subscription. No question. Yeah, he's always my resource guy for those kinds of things. Jared at Mastermind Media Group, so good. He's been such a huge help. He's a huge part of Online Great Books working properly. And if you guys need any help with any of that kind of stuff, he's your guy. If you DM me, I'll give you his contact information. Yeah. Steven says the preacher at the church where I grew up, a massive printing room. Should have learned how all that worked. Now you have to have a subscription to ink and Xerox Serviceman to get anything duplicated. Yep. I'm not going to do it. We're going to do it with mimeograph. I'm not going to do it with a laser printer. We're going to do it with mimeograph. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. We're going to have to resurrect a lot of technology, I think, to do that. But we'll figure it out. Yeah, there's nothing here in on Amazon. Fuck those guys. But there's nothing here on Amazon as far as um, mimeograph supplies. So we're gonna have to figure it out. May have to make everything from scratch. It's fine. When everything hits the fan, we'll still have the zine, guys. We'll still have the zine. Yeah, Steven says Hamburger Publishing House will be the only unscripted outlet. Yeah, maybe. Um, you know, there's always there's always um, because of that Karen, where I'm always, you are always, we are always uh, watching our mouths, essentially. It's terrible. It's terrible. So even then, you'll never get unscripted me. Even then. What else, everybody? What else? Well, if there isn't anything else, hey, go listen to the Outlaw Country Music and Ideas show, Music and Ideas podcast on Outlaw Country. That's a part of my regional culture, even though it has commercial elements to it. I think it's important. Proud of that stuff. Love that stuff. Go listen to that. Go listen to the Online Great Books podcast on unrestricted warfare. We probably should do a show about unrestricted warfare. We should probably do one of these talks about it. In fact, let's do that. Let's do that. I'll schedule it. Okay. I'll schedule a talk in here in Telegram on unrestricted warfare. Have a check. Keep following this and look for that. We'll schedule it for later in the week. Chris Kleinfelter says, "When are we doing Twilight?" I don't know. The next book we're doing is Murder in the Orient on the Orient Express. We're going to follow that one by Greater and Lesser Hippias Plato, and then maybe we'll do Twilight. Twilight. We've been talking about it, and we need to. It'll be tough. Yeah, but we need to do that. Oh, and I need some help from you guys. I'm working on building a greenhouse, and I've got a bunch of windows. I want to make it out of windows, and I want to have scissor trusses, and I'm going to have to make. Well, I don't have to, but I'm going to make my own trusses. And if any of you know of any books that help with scissor truss design or any resources on scissor truss design, I'm I'm good to go on making just a standard truss. But a 12-foot wide scissor truss needs some any help I could get there without having to reinvent the wheel. I would sure appreciate. So let me know about that. Travis says the latest interview with the School Sucks podcast was good too. Well, thank you, thank you. Kyle Jenkins says, as a stick twirler, I'm curious about your top three drummers. Will you share? Oh gosh, I don't know that I care that much about drummers. Sorry, they certainly matter, but I don't. I'm not. I'm not. It's not something I think about a lot. But but I would say I'm going to say um, uh, Krupa, Gene Krupa, Art Blakey, and I don't know, probably Alex Van Halen because I love it. Yeah, Krupa, Gene Krupa. Chris agreed with me on that. Yeah, Krupa, Art Blakey, and probably I've got to go to rock. I'll have to say Alex Van Halen. Love that stuff. Um, yeah, Chick Webb, early big band, but there you go. Kyle approves. He says that's a good list. Well, thank you. Yeah, yeah. Blakey's killer. Well, anything else here before we sign off? I will put this out as a Scott stream. Listen, guys, we talked about creating culture, folk ways, food ways, work ways, spiritual ways. You've got to go do those things. So don't just chat with me here and listen to me talk about this stuff here. Like, go cook a home cooked meal tonight. Beat the television with a hammer and throw it away, and do this with your family for real. You know, that's how we're going to do it, and it doesn't work if you do it once. We've got to do it over and over and over again. Caleb says, "Would I be interested in a weekly show where I take callers?" Sure. I've been told that Nick Fuentes does that, and people like it. I'm sure they do. I don't know how to do it though. I think I can do it with this here. Like, I think I could go. What do I do? Do I just oh, okay? Caleb wants to speak, and then I just click on it, say allow to speak, like that. Yeah. Okay.
Can you hear me? Is it
Yeah.
working?
That would. Caleb is live.
Yeah, is it working? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're very quiet. I wonder if that's me or it's you. I'm turned all the way up.
I'm not sure. It'll probably take some troubleshooting.
Yeah, but there's proof of concept. You're a little bit quiet there, but that's proof of concept. And let's see here. Speak to me again.
Hello?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, there's a proof of concept. We could do that. I could do that like every other week or something like that. That could be fun. We could talk. Well, who knows what would come up? Who
Some
knows?
Karens.
Yeah. Let's see
All right.
here. All right. Rob says, "What's a good card game for family night? Everyone would be over 30." Um, and Charlie says, "You're like half the volume of me, and you just have to yell." That'd be all right. Hey, Rob, everybody over 30, we love bridge. We love pitch. We love, yeah, euchre is a good game. Um, Cameron says euchre. Canasta, we had two recommendations for it. Too many damn cards. Uh, Screw your neighbor. Charlie says that. I think that's like Uno. But here's a great game. If you like bidding games um, like bridge or like pitch, try Wizard. Try Wizard. I'm going to send you guys. I'm going to put a link in here. It's not Magic the Gathering. It's Wizard. It's so freaking good. Let's see here. I'm gonna get U.S. Games Inc. Wizard Games. Go in here and buy a deck of Wizard cards. It's easy to learn, but it's as complex and interesting as as anything. I'm going to send you a link here. The cards are $10. Buy the plastic ones. Don't be a cheap bastard. Buy the plastic ones. I'm putting it in here. Oh Hell and Wizard are very, very, very similar. Oh Hell and Wizard are almost identical games, Ryan. Yeah, I like cribbage, but it's just for two people, if I'm not mistaken. Wizard, you can play from 3 to 6 people. Great game. We have a Wizard game every Monday. We play at 10:30 in the morning. We play one game, eat lunch, play another game, and go home every single Monday. It's a great game. Yeah. Hey, if you guys would pass this around, let's get some more folks in here. Get some more folks in here. Let's work on building some culture and talking about important things. And if anybody in here is going to be, you know, going to be trying to police my speech, we'll boot their ass out and we'll go on with our lives and be grown-ups, huh? Thank you all for listening. I want you to have a good Sunday and figure out which one's your Sabbath and keep it, and be listening for this on the Scott stream. And again, go to scotthambrick.com and join that mailing list. You scroll down to the bottom and join the mailing list so that when we get that Mimeo zine off the ground, you'll be ready for it. Also, if you've got ideas for what we should call that zine, where we talk about politics, homeschooling, homesteading, music, art, have poetry in it, so on. If you have any ideas for what we should name that, let me know. You can email me at scott@scotthambrick.com, or in keeping with the idea, you can email or you can mail Scott Hambrick, P.O. Box 2577, Claremore, Oklahoma 74018. All right. All right, y'all. Thank you all so much for listening. Give me a little bit of your Sunday, and we will talk to you soon. We'll keep up the chat here in the chat, and then meanwhile, I'm going to kill all things NPR didn't consider. Okay, we're almost done. that was great. All right, thank you guys. Talk to you soon.